Good morning, Jaega. How you doing? You well?
I'm good, thank you. I'm good.
I'm pleased to be here with you. I've never been in a brewery before. This is my first time.
Really?
It really is, yeah. and then it's down the corner for me. I'm an East London native, so even more eager to get here and speak to you about what exactly I'm seeing.
Yes.
Right. We're going to do, a bit more in-depth stuff in your office in a minute, but talk to me about what's behind you. What am I looking at?
So you're looking at a craft brewery. So we make per batch, we make about 2,000 litres of beer every time we brew. So what's behind me is we've got our fermentation vessels. We've got the big ones and we have the smaller ones. And we make really tasty, award-winning craft beer. I like
the way you did that. I like the way you put the award winning in. So talk about this. How did you start in this space? Because I'd imagine what I'm seeing is the culmination of years of hard work. You've been there over a decade, right?
Yeah, we've been here over a decade. So I've been the head brewer here for 11 years now. I'm a beer sommelier, so I've been doing it. That means I'm a beer expert. And we've been making beer for just a really long time here, and so our plan is just to make delicious beer for the masses.
You say delicious beer?
Yes, go on.
There's a lot of people that say beer is not delicious.
Oh my God.
So what is it about what you're doing out here that stands you apart from the rest of the industry?
So we have a few core values here at Wildcard. So one of them is obviously the beer has to be number one. So the beer has to be of the highest standard. So I'm talking about we're trying to make the best beer in the world. So that's where we're going for. And the second one is we work really hard, but obviously lots of people work really hard. But we're a company who hasn't come out of wealth or money or anything like that. So a lot of it has been our personal blood, sweat and tears. We've been in Walthamstow for over a decade, and hopefully we're well known and well loved in the area and around London generally.
We got rudely interrupted, sorry. By whatever. You were saying, you kind of want to be the best in the world. Now, when you said that, the first question that came into my mind was, who is the best in the world, in your opinion? I guess that's very subjective. And then how do you climb that mountain to become the fledgling idea that you were over a decade ago to the point where people are recognizing you as one of the premier beers?
The thing is,
craft beers.
What I've learned over the years is it doesn't come overnight. The first day you will sell one, the third day you might sell two, the fourth day you might sell five. I'm not talking days, I'm talking within honestly a long period of time. And what happens is you kind of start with the foundation and then you do the building blocks little by little. And if I was to transport myself back to when I first started and to look at the position that I'm in now, I never would have believed it. But it's the kind of industry, and to make drinks to this level, where you can go to your peers across the world, to America, to Australia, to New Zealand, wherever, Japan, and you can look the best brewers in the eye and you can be like, okay, well that's good, but here's what I make. And people take you seriously. I mean, that's a lot of work to get to that position, and it's a lot of study, and it's a lot of tasting things and saying no, this is not good enough. I think it's always about being able to say this is the standard, and always trying to be at that standard.
We're going to go into your office now. Okay. And actually, before we do that, you're going to take me on a tour, and we're going to break a few things down. All right, let's do that.
Okay, so barley is our raw material. That is where we get our sugar from. And our job as brewers is to take the sugar in the barley and we extract that sugar, we boil the liquid, we add hops, and then we ferment it out. So our job is to turn that sugar into alcohol using yeast. Okay. So the first container here, this is called our mash tun. It's a very simple, quite an English way of brewing. It basically means we add all of the grain into the tank at the same temperature, and we wait for those carbohydrates and those enzymes to interact and to give us nice simple sugars. Yeah. So what we get from this vessel is a nice sugary malty liquid. Think the drink Smolter and the kind of malt-based drinks, right. Very, very similar. That is what we get. And at this point it's called wort. This is called an underback. We then put it into the kettle, and the kettle is exactly what it sounds like, a kettle. So it's got two massive elements in there, and this is where we boil it. Right. And boiling obviously has a number of of benefits. There's quite a lot of complex chemistry going on in the boil, but it also has one of the benefits of just sterilizing absolutely everything. And this is when we add the hops, and depending on when we add the hops, the timings, we get different flavors out of the hops. So we have our bittering hop, our middle hop, and our aroma hop. So this is canning line. This is where we can all of our beers. So we do 440ml cans and 330ml cans here as well. So we make quite a range. So we produce about 4 or 5 new beers a month. Plus we have a core range, which is a pale ale, lager, and an IPA.
Okay. Let's get up into your office and talk about your engineering background. So Jaega, your background is engineering, right?
Yeah.
So how does one transition from that to this?
You know what? They're actually part of the same family. So I come from a chemical engineering background, and a good example is we studied yeast activity, enzymatic activity, fermentation. It's all kind of part of the same family. So lots of people do a degree like chemical engineering and go and work for Heineken or Molson Coors or Carlsberg. And lots of people also go and work in oil and gas as well, as lots of my friends did, or in the city where they're making lots of money. But the two are very much a part of the same family. But it was super helpful coming from a strong engineering background. It kind of gave me a running start, really.
I'm going to get into who Jaega was as a young girl in Nottingham, because I really want to know where the love for beer comes from, right? But just while we're standing here, we're in your warehouse, which is next door to the operation. You've just been named in Waitrose magazine's 10 most influential women in food right now. I'm looking at the size of the operation. I'm looking at how long you've been in the game. It's a moniker that seems to fit. I mean, how did that make you feel? And talk about, just the company you're in now.
It's borderline overwhelming, to be honest with you, to be in the company amongst people who are literal legends. Claudia Roden's on that list. Andy Oliver's on that list. It's pretty unbelievable, to be honest with you. I was quite shocked. I've been working for a few years, just generally in the food space. I wrote a book last year, #1 best-selling book. I'm just saying. But
I love that you just say. I love that. Why not? Talk it.
But so it's been. I work super duper hard, but honestly, to even be in the same sentence of some of those legends, to be honest, I was frankly amazed. But also, I'm going to grab that accolade and I'm going to take it. So if they want to put me in the same sentence, I'll have it.
Well, you see, the thing is, I looked at the list and I said to myself, there's a you've rightly mentioned a couple of well-to-do folk, some high-esteemed individuals, some people with letters after their name. Do you want letters after your name, Jaega? I have to ask, because I thought, that seems to be where she's going. Is that an aspiration? Do you care?
Yeah, I care.
Of course you do.
Yeah, of course I care. So it's you know what it's like that says success, isn't it? So of course you want to reach for the top. Why not? Who wouldn't?
Talking about reaching for the top, you're busy, Jaega. There's a book. Beer Masters TV show, your co-host of BBC 4, Radio 4's The Food Programme. I don't know how you do it all. How do you fit it all in and speak on just aspiring to be where you are now 10 years ago? Is it all going according to plan?
So, as in, you may have noticed, I have an amazing team. So, everyone is super duper supportive of each other, and it's one of the key things that I would say is just like you can't do anything alone. Like, you need help, you need friends, and you need just a really solid team around you. And also, just generally, I think it's important to surround yourself with people who have different skill sets to you. So within the business generally, so we have Will, who looks after all the sales, Andrew, who looks after the finance, and I look after the product. So just generally, like, we're all really good friends, but also you have to recognise the things that you're really good at and things maybe you're not so good at. just so you build the strongest foundation you can. Because business is testing, it really is. The COVID pandemic obviously was horrific for everybody, and I think it's at times like that of extreme stress when I think you really, I think you find out what kind of company you are, what kind of person you are as well.
Did I mention that you're busy?
I am a little busy, but
the reason why I say that is because I understand that you also co-own the Tavern on the Hill, famed for its Caribbean roasts. Listen, talk to me about it, because I live down the road and I didn't know anything about this, so I hear it's popping. So I own a pub down the road called the Tavern on the Hill. It's quite an interesting story because I used to work in the basement of that pub when we first started 10 years ago. So we used to exchange casks in order to let us use the basement. Yeah.
And the landlord, the pub had failed in COVID, so he let us come and use the pub and take over a lease, really.
Brilliant.
And then we decided we had a Jamaican food vendor in there, and it's one of the things you have to do with a British pub is you have to do a Sunday roast. And we did like a spin on a British Sunday roast, which is, we all know what a Caribbean roast is, right? In terms of, it's the household I grew up in, and my family, and lots of Caribbean families. It's just a normal roast dinner, but you might have jerk chicken or some sort of like lamb or pork or what have you. You would have rice and peas, you would have plantain, probably macaroni cheese, especially quad carb in there. So we did that as a normal thing, and it went kind of insane on TikTok and went viral, and then celebrities started coming. And then Stormzy came. That was kind of crazy.
Kind of. It's a big thing.
Yeah.
Storms don't go anywhere.
Well, I figured, what's the least creepy way I could talk to Stormzy, right? Because he doesn't want to be bothered on a.
Not when he's eating his Sunday roast.
He's eating with his friends. So I thought, I called the team and was like, guys, I'm going to become a waitress for the day. So I was his personal, can I get you another drink, Stormzy? Yeah. And it was great. It was fabulous.
No, that's brilliant. Yeah. Brilliant endorsement. And I guess, after you've gone viral like that, given the journey, you started in the basement, mate, that's a moment. You must have. Yeah, it is. But you can't rest on your laurels, and you're hungry,
and things don't happen. These things don't happen naturally. So, you know what it's like. You get one bit of spark, so the internet takes it and runs with it, and then you kind of have to fan the flames. So, I think it's important to keep your foot on the gas, always. Because there has to always be momentum. Momentum.
One of the things that kept coming up when I was researching you was the fact that you're a fierce advocate for equality within the brewing industry.
Yeah.
Talk about that, because I understand there's been some movement in regards to the fact that sexist, homophobic and racist labelling on beer has been banned. Speak on that subject.
So it's one of the things I noticed in this industry, that there weren't very many women who were at the top, and it was something that I noticed obviously very quickly, and it's something that it causes you just general issues by the way you're spoken to, by the way you're treated. And obviously I come from an engineering background, so I was used to being amongst a lot of men, but in the beer industry it's that plus there's alcohol involved, so there's always tricky situations. And one of the things that always really, really bothered me was the fact that out there in the world there was culture of really belittling women on branding in a way that was seen as cheeky or fun. And it was one of the things that we decided to try and change. So there's a group called the Portman Group whose job it is to look after alcohol labelling. They're basically like labelling police.
Right.
And it literally wasn't in their rule book to stop labels that were deemed as sexist, racist, homophobic. So it would be a problem in the UK to have a can of beer that looked like it was aimed at children. That would get you pulled off the shelves. But if you had a sexist label, that was perfectly acceptable within the rules. So what we decided to do was change the rule book. So it was a lot of work. I worked with our trade body, got lots of signatures from people all over the country, and it's now been added into the rulebook, and that covers all alcohol in the UK that is sold. So if there is an issue, you can just, if you see it, you can complain to the Portman Group, and an independent body will investigate it and potentially pull that product from the shelves. And I think that's important, because I've always been a big believer in yeah, you can talk about it on Twitter, yeah, you can, and those things are really good in terms of public pressure, but nothing says that something is not acceptable than by a legislative change. And that needs to be written down. It needs to be something so we're all held accountable for what we choose to put out there.
You've already left an indelible mark on the industry, and you're only 10 years in. That's, I mean, it's, you know, we could talk about Stormzy, and we could talk about, you know, shifting units of beer, but that's the type of change that's going to benefit generations to come, right?
I think so. And it's something that's hard earned, and from a lot of women in the industry all kind of put their efforts in, and I'm a big believer of if you want to see something change, get stuck in and help change it. So things that perhaps may not make you particularly popular, but you have to get involved. You have to talk to lots of different groups and lots of different people, and do talks and that sort of thing, and try and change hearts and minds. You know how many brewers, if you say to them, yeah, but do you want to sell beer to more women? Every single one says yes. So the obvious answer is, well, then don't patronise them. Make them feel like they're part of the party. And I'm yet to meet a brewer or anyone in the industry that can say no to that.
I wanted to get back to who Jaega was as a young girl in Nottingham, because have you always been this fiercely driven engineer, changing the world legislatively? I mean, don't get in your way is what I'm getting, but have you always been that type of person?
I've been a dweeb my whole
you
life.
Mentioned your Caribbean background. What's the parents' influence on you? Where are they from?
So I'm half. My stutters. I am 50% from Trinidad and Tobago. I used to live there when I was a kid. Not that you can tell with my accent, but
it's gone now.
It's completely gone now. But and my father's side of the family are from Hull, and yeah. So I've grown up with a lot of Caribbean culture, obviously. But I also grew up in Nottingham, which is a predominantly white town. So I had this kind of weird mix of being. I come from a very black household, but then out there in the world, in your year at school, there's only 3 of you. So it's this kind of odd mix. And I remember when I went to uni, so I went to Loughborough Uni. There's a massive Nigerian crowd in Loughborough. And I joined the ACS, which is the Afro-Caribbean Society, and it was like my awakening.
Did you exhale, Jaega?
No, but yes. And so I've made some amazing friends. I went to Nigeria for my friend's wedding.
Oh, wow.
It's just it's been really incredible, really.
Favorite place to travel?
Oh, where's my favorite place to travel? Favorite place to travel. No, I went to Italy actually last year.
What part?
I went to around about Siena.
Okay.
And it was just beautiful. I
Pictures.
saw the Leaning Tower of Pisa, because I've never been there before, you hear so much about it. And just the way they approach food and the culinary experience. Like even everything from, on a menu, it will just say the words seasonal vegetables. And you just order that, and then what will come will be the vegetable that should be growing at the particular time. And I do wish that we could eat a little bit more like that.
I think we're going back
here.
that way, to be honest with you. I think this whole we can have what we want when we want attitude, if the current supermarket shelves are anything to go by, and you've already mentioned the destabilisation that has affected everybody in the food chain, I think we're going to go back to that.
There are so many factors affecting what we eat. And some of them are self-made factors, and some of them are obviously factors coming from the outside. But I did a program recently about Brexit and the effects of on food in the UK, and a lot of people are really struggling. I think the resounding comment from food producers across the UK was they're having a really tough time.
Beyond food, beer. What's Jaega interested in? What music? What music listening to? What team do you support?
Oh my goodness!
Do you even do sport?
Do I do sport?
I mean, even watching,
playing. I'm ashamed to say I'm not really that involved in sport.
You left it behind in unit at Loughborough, did you?
I wasn't involved in that.
No. And that's a sports unit.
I was the kind of person that was coming home at 4 in the morning whilst other people were out for a jog. I was that
doing
kind
research.
Of girl. Yeah, doing research. But just generally, so I got to go to West Ham. And I got to give an award to the player of the match at the women's West Ham game. That was pretty special. Didn't realise the lawn was so. It's only when you walk on it.
Did you mean the pitch?
Well kept. That was the pitch.
Yeah.
The lawn. It's grass, isn't it? But no. So I'm not massively into my football, but.
Music-wise?
Music-wise, oh. Well, I'm going to say Stormzy, because I've recently met him.
Stormzy, she wants you back, Stormzy.
Yeah, his new album, so I'm loving it.
Oh, nice, it's good album.
And that song, Tomato Jammer, fire.
I'm moving on. You're doing the most.
I know nothing, I don't know information.
Moving forward, you got any more boxes to tick?
Oh,
what are the ambitions? You've already talked about being the best beer in the world, I get that.
I'm actually filming after this. I'm going to. Do you know the show Abandoned Engineering on the Yesterday channel?
I don't know.
It's basically a talking head piece where you get to talk about like history and politics, and you get to talk about all sorts of different topics. But they tell you about abandoned buildings, and when you go there, you say, "Well, this is the history of said building, etc., etc."
Okay.
So it's
So it's taking you in different directions.
Different directions.
That's good. So introducing you to different audiences.
Different audiences.
Okay. Well, listen, I'd be remiss of me to end this interview without people understanding exactly what you're involved in, so that they can make sure that they pick up your book. Talk about that.
Yes. Okay. So my book is called Wild Brews. It's available on Waterstones, Amazon, all around the country. It's released in America and a couple of other countries as well. And that is a book about how to make beer at home for the home brewer. So especially with a leaning towards how to use wild yeast and bacteria, how to make beer. So think sour beers, think funky Belgian beers. I am on the BBC Food programme, which is every Sunday, 12:30 p.m. on Radio 4. I'm one of 4 presenters on there, so I do about a quarter of the show, so I can be found every couple of weeks on there. And yeah, Instagram. So I do a lot of.
Where's the Instagram handle?
So Instagram is Jaega Wise, JAEGAWISE. Yeah, so all of my activities are normally on there.
So we're here at the bar. I didn't even notice it when I came in. So tell me what happens here. What's
so this is an active bar. So we open at the weekends at this site. This site's mainly production. We've got the pub, which is only 5 minutes on the road from the Tavern on the Hill, and we have the barrel store, which is by Walthamstow Village as well. So there are 3 sites. And people can come and try beer and just find out what we do.
Talk about that award-winning stout that you've got in your hand that you're about to give to me.
So this is what I'd probably recommend. This is an imperial stout. It's 9.5%, so quite a strong one. So take it easy when you're drinking it. And this beer has just won International Beer Challenges stout category, and then it won. Just like overall champion stout, and it's the International Beer Challenge, so it's big breweries from all over the world enter. I'm taking that as currently kind of the best stout in the world. So
say no more, Jaega Wise. It's in keeping with everything else we spoke about today. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Coming down to your brewery. It's not the last time. I'll be here again, probably when you win more awards, more accolades. As well. As I say, people don't know how chilly it is, so thank you, because you're the cheese shirt, and I want to end it because of that reason. Just before we go, anything else to say to our viewers, watchers? You good?
Yeah. One thing I would probably say is these are the beers that get out and about the most. Our core range, these 3. So it'd be good to get these, because these are the ones that will be in restaurants and all around the country. Got core range, which is a lager, an IPA, and a pale.
Okay, so if people want to know where they can, I'm zooming in now, right? So they can see what's what. Is there anything you recommend in particular? Or?
Oh, it depends on what you're after. If you're looking for super easy drinking, light but like hoppy, the pale ale's really good. So that's this one.
Okay, cool.
They're all really good.
They're all good.
I would make them if they weren't good.
Appreciate it. Of course they are. Of course they are.